Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to Deadheadland. Hi, my name is Happy Cat, and I'd like to just say good morning to you and hope you're having a great weekend and a good Sunday morning. We're here today with a very special show for you. We're going to be talking to Bob Minkin, a world-renowned photographer, about some of his books that he's been publishing, and his new one that's going to be coming out that's focused on Bob Weir, and it's called Just Bobby. So we'll have Bob on in just a minute to talk about all those things. And just wanted to remind you that Deadheadland is here through your support, and the link is posted there for our Patreon account. And if you could please become a subscriber to Deadheadland for a small monthly amount, $4.20 a month, a little bit more if you can afford it. That's what helps me keep the programming going on here at Deadheadland. All sorts of good stuff coming up. We've got our regular shows every Monday with David Gans and with Scott Law, and then we've got Scott Guberman a few times Monday, every other Monday, and every Saturday morning. And we've got Stephen Inglis every other Thursday. So there's lots of music coming at you real regularly on Deadheadland, and some special programming too. We've got some really special, unique streams coming up in just a couple of weeks' time. I can't quite tell you about it yet, but it's something you're going to really enjoy. So again, thank you for your support on Deadheadland. That's what keeps us going here. And hey, Nathan, I see you out there, and hopefully there's a few more of you out there listening and tuning in. So anyways, I'm going to bring on our guest today, Bob Minkin, and we'll talk about his pictures and his books. Hey, good morning, Bob. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks, Brian. Good to see you.
Good to see you this morning. And so tell us, what's been going on in your world?
Well, the biggest news in my world, what's been focusing a lot of my attention, is right now the Kickstarter is going for my next book, which is Just Bobby, which is basically kind of a follow-up almost to Just Jerry, focusing on a band member and exploring all the photos I've taken of that band member, in this case, Bobby Weir, and it goes from the mid-'70s till now. In fact, I'm going to Red Rocks in a few days to shoot Dead and Company, and I'm sure some of those photos will make it into the book.
Oh, very good. So this is going to have some new stuff as well as some archival photos. You've been taking pictures of the band and of Bob Weir for quite a long time now. When was the first time you shot Grateful Dead?
Well, the first time I shot Grateful Dead was in '76. The first time I shot Jerry actually was a year before at the Capitol Theater when he was playing with the Garcia Band, then the Nicky Hopkins lineup. And that was in November '75. And then a month later, I shot Bobby for the first time with Kingfish, also at the Capitol Theater. So, and I started shooting shows in '74 as just a young hippie with a Kodak Instamatic.
Uh-huh. So, and I'd asked you about that before. You shot film pictures for a long time. When did you step up to a professional camera? When did you start bringing in good cameras into the shows?
Yeah, I stepped up the game in late '77 before I came out to California for the Winterland run. I moved up from a rangefinder camera. I don't want to get all tech geeked out with cameras, but I moved up to a 35 millimeter SLR film camera, kind of a real camera. And that's when I started, my picture game went up dramatically with those Winterland '77 shots, which we might show some later. But and then as years gone on, I was able in the early '80s to afford, save up and get a Nikon. and that's what I've been using since then. I mean, not that particular camera,
Okay.
although I still have it. It's a film camera, Nikon FM1, but I'm a Nikon guy, and currently I use a Nikon D850.
Okay. And yeah, so that's and so you pretty much have shot with Nikon cameras, and that's your thing.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, for a lot of friends use Canons and Sonys nowadays, but I just stuck with the Nikon.
very good. Well, you get familiar with using a particular brand and their way that they're set up and all the controls and everything. I'm sure there's some familiarity there.
Yeah, oh yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, film. The thing with film is, you kind of really had to know what you were doing.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of leeway, fixing it up later kind of thing. Things like Lightroom and Photoshop didn't exist, so you had to do things in the darkroom, and it was tedious and laborious. And the hardest thing was making a print and then making that same print again look the same way. 'Cause you have to use these techniques of dodging and burning and using different developers at different temperatures. I mean, when I look back at it, it was a major pain in the ass, actually. But
wow, did you have your own darkroom?
oh yeah, I used to use my school's darkroom, which was when I went to school at the School of Visual Arts in New York, and then I had a darkroom in my parents' house, in a little cubby. I walled it off and put some drapes over it, and I spent many, many, many hours in there.
Yeah. And, I remember just myself shooting pictures on like Instamatics and stuff. It was so pricey to develop the pictures all the time. And, so many of them didn't come out good.
Yeah.
Lucky if you got one or two good ones on a roll, even just as an amateur photographer. And then digital has kind of changed everything. And I know I asked you before we went on the air, you said you switched to digital in 2005, I think. And, for you, just creatively, how did that change the game for you?
Well, digital has a lot more latitude, meaning like if your exposure is not spot on and the highlights are a little blown out or your shadows are a little filled in, that's all really fixable, like in a program like Adobe Lightroom. So that's not to say like, software is, I mean, it still has to be a good picture, because you could have a perfectly exposed beautiful picture of something that's not interesting.
Right.
So, there is still that creative aspect that doesn't go away. It's just another tool, it's another tool, But speaking of cameras and stuff, I actually have the original camera that I shot my first concerts with in 1974 and 1975. I used this up until 76, actually. This is a Kodak Instamatic, kind of dropped this plastic film cartridge in, you bring a photo mat, and then a day or two later you get your little square pictures back. So the first shows I shot were the New Riders of the Purple Sage, the Academy of Music in New York, with this, and Garcia Band with Nicky Hopkins, the 75, and Kingfish, and some of my first early dead experiences with this actual camera, which my believe it or not, my aunt had all this time, and she gave it to me back to me last year.
That's wild. We should put that in some sort of deadhead wing of the Smithsonian or something.
I don't know. It's crazy. I can't believe it myself. I hadn't seen it in a long time till last year.
That's wild. That's wild. And all of us had cameras like that at some point. Those little Instamatics and the photo mat thing. For the young kids listening, this is how we used to take pictures.
Gotta wait a day or two.
Yeah, but now, with digital, you can. I just know for me, you can snap a lot more pictures, take your chances with things, and also I found that I can digitally, playing with Photoshop or whatever, I can take a picture that's not quite that's interesting, as you're saying, but not quite that good, but you can tweak it and play with it and make it something that's viewable. Maybe it's not, perfect focus, but you can play. There's things you can do with it. So I enjoy that creative aspect of the digital thing.
You create a workflow. In my case, I have to look at hundreds of pictures, and I just like to move through them quick. I don't want to, if I have to spend too much time on a photo, to me, that means move on to another photo,
Right. I can see that. Yeah.
There's something not right. You're trying to make something work, It's just a lot of decisions, and I'm usually really tired after a bout of editing photos.
Well, yeah. The fun part is being at the shows and snapping the photos.
Exactly.
That's what people also don't see, is you have to go home and do a lot of work when you posting a bunch of pictures the next day or the 2 days after a show, that means you worked a bunch after the show. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's then the work begins.
yeah.
Like, you ever see that pie chart, like what photographers think they do, what their mothers think they do, and all this stuff. So, the part usually shows photographers, hanging out backstage, partying and doing fun things. And then the reality one is, in front of a computer for 8 hours, editing.
Yeah, there's a Rosemary over on the stream watching on
Hey,
Facebook said she had one of those Instamatic cameras, and
hey, Rosemary, thanks for coming by.
oh, and look at this, we've got someone watching us from Norway. Welcome.
Oh,
So we
Todd
are.
Trules. Yes, I met Odd a few years ago when he came to the U.S.
Ah, very good. So yeah, we're worldwide. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I just want to remind you all that one of the things that we're doing here is promoting Bob's new book, and you've got a Kickstarter campaign going on, and I've got the link running down below there on the screen, bit.ly/justbobby, and it's tell them about the Kickstarter and about the book that you've got coming up.
Yeah, well, first, hi, Mom. I see my mother's popped in here, so I better be on my best behavior. I don't think there's not much she doesn't know by now. But so, yeah, the Kickstarter, basically, I use Kickstarter as a way for people to pre-order the book and to raise the funds because it's very expensive to put out a quality book. In this case, upwards of $25,000 to $30,000. So this is my fourth Kickstarter, and I'm blessed and full of gratitude to say so far they've all been successful. And this one, for Just Bobby, I started 5 days ago, and it's almost at its goal, which to me means the book is definitely going to happen. So the idea is you log into this link, and I created a number of like rewards, like prizes, so to speak. I mean, at the very least, somebody could do an advance purchase of the book. But then I made all these combo things. Like there's a deluxe version of the book, a limited edition, only 100 copies. It's already about more than a third sold out, where you get some, a nice cloth covered case with a foil embossed photo image of Bobby on the front, similar to the Just Jerry one, if you've seen that. And it comes with a photo. Believe it or not, I have photos that I've never shown anybody before. And the limited edition comes with one of those shots from a shot I took at Radio City, where Bobby's kind of looking over at Jerry, smiling. And it's an unpublished shot that I broke out for this deluxe version. So basically, you log in there and you can pledge an amount, and you'll get something for that amount. It's not a donation per se. You actually receive something in return, and you help in producing the book. Everybody who backs the book will get their name in the book. So that's a cool thing. You'll be thanked personally in the book for all of posterity. So.
Okay, that's kind of a cool thing. So everybody that makes the donation is going to get their name in the book.
That's
or
right.
That gets it, do it via the Kickstarter. So don't wait to buy the book in 6 months. You want to get in on it ahead of time.
You'll get your name in there, and you'll also have the opportunity to get some cool prizes that won't be offered afterwards. So.
All right. Oh, that's really fun. So so is it kind of like a contest? Like you're getting entered to win the prizes? Anybody buying at any level might get entered? Or
no, I call it a prize, but it's really like a reward level. So I have
okay.
A lot of them are limited. Like there's certain ones that are just limited, like 5 or 2. And during the Kickstarter, after it succeeds, I'm probably going to put up these kind of stretch goals, they call them, where, the next number 100, 200 person will get a free print from me that I'll send them and post it on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that in the past, and people their minds are blown when they get like a print that normally costs like a few $100, like delivered to them for free, signed, all because they were like the 200th person that kicked in on the Kickstarter. So
wow.
I'll be doing some of those little treats.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, as it goes along.
And I remember from one of your Kickstarter campaigns before, you're actually really good about sharing your process as you're going along, and like, this is what we're doing. I remember getting the updates from you, and it's really great. So when for the people out there, when you're doing this Kickstarter, it's a pre-order. You're buying the book before it's ready for publication. You'll get it down the road. I'm sure there's a set date that it's supposed to be published.
Yeah, in the spring.
But you're involved in the process. You're like watching Bob create the book as he's creating it, and part of what you're doing is you're supporting the artist. You're supporting Bob in his photography and his authorship to create this book. So this is Bob and I talked about this a little bit beforehand. When you're a creative person, you're not necessarily going into the office and punching in 9 to 5 and getting a paycheck direct deposited. This is how a creative person gets paid: is you create something and you need to get it out to the people and hopefully they buy it. So this way you're supporting Bob as an artist, as a creative person, and giving him basically kind of becoming his employer. So for the next period of months while you're working on this is also like your job. And this is what pays you to both create and to do the great expense it's going to cost. Publishing a book costs a lot of money,
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, Brian. Exactly to the point, I do give a lot of updates, like with some of my previous ones, I gave, dozens, 30, 40 updates, like here's where I'm at. I show samples, it's basically like I'm reporting to my team, who supported me in this. Here's what I'm up to. Here's what I'm going. I always post the milestones, like ready to go to the printer, or I got the proofs back. Here's what they look like, and then finally that blessed day that the books arrive.
Yeah.
And I have a garage full of pallets of books. Okay.
Yeah. And what's great about this too is you're doing this yourself. You're not and I think that's what a lot of creative people need to do now, is create on their own. We're not looking for the big publisher to come and give you the big book advance, and and then you go to France and drink away the money before you publish the book. No, but this is really us as your fans and the people that support your work are giving you that advance, so to speak, and then you create the book.
Yeah. I wanted the community involved because the dead community is one of the most important communities there is out there, and especially close to me. So having the community involved and seeing the willingness of people to support it so far, the book is being well supported, and gladdens my heart and shows that there's still a force of good in the world.
Right. And again, on the stream, Rosie mentioned that she's purchased a few of your books in the past. And
great supporter.
You've done a few of these campaigns, and you've actually authored a few books. You have how many books out now?
This will be the number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
And are they all still in print? Can these be ordered from you, or some out of print?
Yeah, Live Dead, the first one I did 7 years ago is sold out. It's you might still find it on Amazon.
Really? I've got 2 copies.
Yeah, well, are they signed? I can come over and sign them.
I think one is.
The next book, The Music Never Stopped, really documents the whole Marin County music scene. And, that's going to really be a treasured thing now, because with, the upcoming changes in our music scene here in Marin County, that book has captured a time that we're all going to look back on fondly, with Terrapin and Sweetwater and the rest of the places. Iron Springs Pub, for example, that's another one that's changing. So that book really captures like 30, 40 years of Marin County music. That is available still, and as is my previous book, Just Jerry, which is still going strong. And if you like Jerry, man, this is hefty meal of Jerry Garcia for you.
Yeah. And after Just Jerry, assuming Just Bobby's successful, I can see maybe Just Mickey and Just Billy. And
I've been asked. Yeah, I know. A few people ask me about Just Bill, but I just want to get through this one first.
Right. But it's a great project. And so you're focusing real specifically on Bob Weir. I'm assuming lots of pictures of Bob Weir. And all of his different bands, including the Grateful Dead. I know that Bobby's very you're friends with him, and he's been very open with you about letting you just take pictures of him. Pretty, you have a lot of like great and candid shots, and just you can tell he's super comfortable with you with the camera.
Yeah.
Is he comfortable with this book?
Yeah. I've been in touch with his family, and they think it's a great idea. I
Okay.
mean, for my previous book, Just Jerry, Bobby actually wrote the forward to it. A
Uh-huh.
terrific forward, and Trixie Garcia also participated, and she wrote a great personal story about
Uh,
what it was like growing up, like Jerry Garcia is your father. So I do get buy-in. I mean, I do get blessed pixel dust thrown on me from the people involved, and I wouldn't really have it any other way, you know. So
uh-huh.
so
Well,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. It really is. It's nice to see the support there, and do you have people lined up already to write the parts for this book, to write the
Yeah, I have some
forwards or
people I'm going
intros, or?
to be contacting soon. People like Steve Kimmock and Jackie Green and Sammy Hagar, Yorma,
Hmm.
and people playing bands like Nate LaPointe from Cubensis and Rob Eaton. I have some great Rob.
Certainly, yeah, very influenced
Yeah,
by Bobby. Yeah.
yeah. I now have like Rich Hogue, who's built guitars for
Hmm.
Bobby, and it'll be very interesting, And just to note, like the book, it's entitled "Just Bobby," but literally, it's not going to be 100 like literally just Bobby. It's basically there'll be plenty of solo shots of Bob in various times, but there'll be photos where he's kind of the forefront of the photo. So there may be a
Hmm.
shot of the dead at Winterland in '77, but it's clear he's the front and center guy in that shot, as well as I mean, really, the key thing that sets this book apart, aside from the fact there's never been a book focused on Bob Weir, a photo book before, is the intimacy, as you brought up earlier, Brian. The fact that I've been allowed to be in kind of an inner sanctum, while the bands rehearse and backstage and stuff. So you can see photographs of like their creative process, as they're going over material. Even though it's not audio, you can almost hear it, where
Hmm.
Jeff is looking over at Bob and Bob's thinking like this, and Kimmock's looking up. It's just one of these moments that are just precious.
Yeah. Well, I know your photos really do evoke so many memories and stories, and I'm one of those people that hears music real easily in my head. As soon as I see something, it's just like, oh, it's there. So it's almost like the music is in the pictures there. So
Yeah, people have
uh,
told me that too. They can
yeah.
almost hear it, by looking looking at the pictures.
Yeah. And now also, just from the part of this is my new Grateful Dead book club that I've been wanting to do for a while, the I Know You Writer series. I do want to say that you're not I mean, you are a photographer, but there is writing, there is authorship involved in this. You've got a lot of stories to tell, and you're a pretty good storyteller as well, aside from just photography. So there's a lot that you're going to have to do for this book, the writing aspect as well.
Yeah, there'll be anecdotes by some of the folks I mentioned, but there'll be my narrative and telling, because I'm a fan too. When I'm looking at a book by Jim Marshall, let's say, and I see these incredible photos, I love when I see here the backstory, like what's going on here, how did you even get into this situation? So
Uh-huh.
that always, when I was a teenager, that it was always filled me with wonder, like how this even happened. And that one day I'd be doing it myself. I see the process. So I like to talk about that, like how did you get in this situation? Because I'm curious about it when I see other photography books myself.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. Just here's a comment from Jim. When Bob gets captured by the Bob, it will be well done. When the
Right.
hunter gets captured by the game.
Exactly. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt. We just use pixels
Yeah.
here.
Well, I mean, there's so much great stuff, but let's take a look. I've got you sent me a great selection of some of the pictures, so let me put those up on the screen, and I'll just scroll through some of them, and you can share some stories and give
Sure.
people kind of a hint. Some of these pictures are perhaps from some of your other books too, so you can mention if they're in this one or that one, so just so people know. But let me bring my pictures up here. Hold on
Mhm.
one moment. There we go. All right, we're starting off with this one here.
Ah, yes. So this is the first time I came face to face with Bobby Weir. In, literally, this photo here, he's probably, I think he's not quite 29. I think it's about a month before his 29th birthday. So he's still 28 years old, which at the time, he seemed a lot older than me. But now it seems like, what, kidding me? You're only 28. So the story behind this is in 1976, in September 28th, to be specific, I the Grateful Dead weren't doing any dates up in the New York area. So my buddy and I had this idea. Well, we heard they're playing in Syracuse, New York. Like, let's go to Syracuse, New York. Now, some people ask me, well, what'd your parents say? Yeah, how'd your parents like let you go? Because I was like 17 at the time. The idea is they didn't know I was going to Syracuse to see the Grateful Dead. I mean, it's probably one of these like I'm sleeping over my friend's house kind of thing. And it was in those days they didn't have helicopter parents. People weren't checking up on you. So my buddy and I, we had some money we made, saved up. We were doing some illicit stuff back then, so we had some extra cash. No details. So. So we just on a whim, we just went up to LaGuardia Airport and took a flight to Syracuse. Now we had no tickets, nowhere to stay. In fact, we didn't even know where the Grateful Dead were playing. So we got to Syracuse and we got a cab from the airport. And we asked the cab driver, so where do they have like big concerts around here in Syracuse? So he drove us to some stadium type place and was like, nope, ain't here. So we were driving around for a while, and finally he took us over to the Onondaga County War Memorial. And lo and behold, there was the Dead scene. It's out front. I was like, yep, this is the place. So we let us off there, and we managed to get tickets. And we didn't even have a place to stay afterwards, but yet we dropped acid, which is crazy, right? When you think about it, like without knowing certain things. Oh, well, we're here and we have tickets. So we went to the show, and I took some shots with my little Kodak here that I brought up earlier. This is the camera I took this picture with. So at the end of the show, I had the bright idea. My buddy and I had the idea. Let's go meet the Grateful Dead, So we went around by the back of the place where the crew was unloading, and they could be kind of a surly bunch, So, but they gave us a little crap, but we persisted and hung out by that door. And, you can hear, like, I heard Garcia down the stairwell. And then I just got a little brave and I walked into the vestibule. And then out of that doorway came Weir. I caught him first coming up and then coming down. I said, hey, Bobby. And then he just stopped and let me take this picture of him, which at the time I thought was like the coolest thing ever.
That's wild. Yeah, it's a great shot, too. It's just, he's looking right at you. And
back in that era of sport jackets and disco and
yeah, the early Bobby beard,
Yeah, this was September. They made a Dick's Picks out of this show, actually, 9/28/76.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else. Okay. Oh, this is a great one.
Winterland. So this was like a year later. At this point now, I bought that 35 millimeter film camera, a Minolta SRT 201, and I heard about the Dead's amazing, New Year's Eve shows. So I hardly had any money. I was able to pull together some cash and take a Greyhound bus by myself from New York to San Francisco, which was not a great experience. I don't recommend it ever doing that, but I did it, and I ordered tickets ahead of time. So how'd you get tickets? So I just basically called up Winterland Presents, which was Bill Graham's office, and said, I'd like to buy tickets for the New Year's Eve shows. And they're like, oh, okay. How many do you want? 2 for each night. Okay. And here, send a money order. It was probably like $8.50 tickets, it was
right.
It was probably like $40, whatever. Okay, send us a money order, and we'll mail you the tickets. I was like, okay. I did all that. I did that well in advance. I got the tickets in my hand and went out on the bus. And it's a longer story that I've told in my other book, but I essentially lost my wallet in the Greyhound bus terminal when I got to San Francisco. So I lost the tickets and everything,
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. I did have an ounce of tie stick on me, however, and for some people that may not have heard of tie stick, you can look it up. It was a pretty precious type of weed back then.
Oh,
but anyhow,
yeah.
that I still had. But this hippie on the bus I met let me stay at his place. So the next morning, I was freaked out. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to meet my friend the next day who came separately. I don't have tickets. I don't have any, at the tie stick though. But he let me stay at his place in San Francisco and then drove me to Winterland that morning. So I'd gotten out of his car and I was standing across the street from Winterland. It was kind of drizzly and dreary. And I just spent 3.5 days on a bus. And this was the picture I took, wondering, what the heck am I going to do now? So long story short, my friend showed up. He freaked out when I told him I didn't have the tickets. We looked up where Bill Graham Presents was, Winterland Productions. It was in it was south of Market. We had to find a phone booth to get a telephone book to look it up. We just went down there. We took a cab down there, and I sold some tie stick. He had some money, so we got up some amount of cash. And I just knocked on this door. It's an industrial area with a small sign that said Winterland Productions. And this guy answers. He's like, "Can I help you?" The key is I remembered the name of the person I spoke to when I called to get the tickets. Then this woman, and she came out to the door, and she's like, she remembered because it was unusual back then, calling to get the tickets. So she let us in. She was very sad of what happened to us. Even though the shows were sold out, she had extra tickets, so she sold us a fresh set that allowed me and my friend Joel to get in that night and to take the next picture. I think that's in your line here. This shot, which is one of my favorite shots. I mean, we got into Winterland, and this was a place I've always heard of. All the other famous venues of the 60s, the Avalon, the Fillmore West, Carousel Ballroom, and the original Fillmore, was still not open. So it hadn't reopened. So this was, to me, my last chance to see the band in one of those places, So walking inside, it was like an electrifying experience. And we made our way up to the front, which was really easy. People were like, "Oh, this dude's got a camera. Yeah, come on, go ahead of me, Like, wow, people are really, really friendly here." So next thing I know, we're right up at the rail, and they were like kind of tuning up and getting ready. The drummers are doing their thing. And then Jerry I could tell it was the first notes of Jackstraw. And then at one point, I was holding my camera up at him, and it looked like he looked right at me. And it was the first picture I took, when I got inside. We got this shirt with his sleeves rolled up, the Wolf guitar. And he just looked so...
It's great. It's a really unique shot of Jerry. And I just love it.
And then that show, 12/29/77, turned out to be, quite a legendary show. They broke out China Cat Rider that night for the first time in years. It was just wonderful being 18 years old and on the rail at Winterland.
Oh, I'm sure. All right. So once again, reminder that this is your new book. I was assuming this isn't actually maybe this is going to be the cover of the book.
Yeah, that's going to be the cover.
Okay.
The only thing missing is who wrote the foreword or the introduction. I don't have that nailed down yet, but that'll go on the cover as well near the bottom.
But you got the cover taken care of. Now it's just the rest of the book. Do you have it planned out, number of chapters or how long it's going to be?
Currently, it's going to be 152. Okay, Brian.
That's me. I'm going the wrong way in the pictures. I can tell now.
I took that picture, so it's okay.
It is. I don't think it's going to be in the book, but that's and that's Jerry's alligator guitar. That was at Terrapin, actually just a little bit before the whole stay in place and shelter in place.
Yeah. Andy Logan's alligator now. It'll always be Jerry's, of course, but Andy's the current steward, and he brought it to Terrapin and let everybody touch it and look at it.
And strummed it a couple of times. That was really fun. So here, we'll go the other direction here with your photos. There we go.
Oh, this.
So, all right. So these are some...
It's from a series. Yeah, you could start at the beginning where Phil's walking from the bus.
Oh, okay. I've got it in the wrong order here. There we go. Well, we'll back up one first. What's going on here?
Okay, well, go back a couple more, and I'll lead up to this one. This was at a press conference in New York. So here's the dais the dais shot with Rock Scully. So this was a press conference in New York, and it was geared towards college media. So I wrangled a way in there, and this was right in between the Dead's January 79 Garden shows, the first time they played at Madison Square Garden, and then a day or two later they played at Nassau Coliseum. So boy, living in the New York area when the Dead were touring, it was an abundance of shows. There were 2 at the Garden in Manhattan, and then a few days later 2 in Long Island at Nassau. And at Nassau, one of the shows is famously known for the return of Dark Star. Came back at that show. But anyhow, in the middle of this, at the New York Hilton Hotel, they had this press conference that I was able to go to, and the band was set up here. Everybody was there except for Donna, actually. I don't know why Donna wasn't there. But Rock Scully, you see there, was the moderator. And you got Jerry, Mickey, Billy, Keith, Bobby, and Phil. So all kinds of questions were flowing. It was just a real free-for-all. And in the next photo, there's tape decks up along the dais. And at one point, one of the decks made a very loud click when the tape ended. So the guy, whose tape, was like, oh, I got to, go up there and, right in front of him. But as you could see, Jerry, Mickey, and Billy were very nice and polite and were turning the deck tape over for him and re-clicking it to continue.
That's great. That's
tapers,
great.
Man. They're tapers.
Yeah. Tapers helping tapers.
So then,
then
in the middle of this press conference, it's like a room full of people. Not everybody there was, there were like people in suits and stuff. Jerry just takes out a joint, lights it up, and just starts puffing away.
Like, that's just classic.
Like an early afternoon joint.
And all right, and so now we've got Phil. This is where's this at? This was
at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. So this was a great tale here. So this was April '78, and what happened was some enterprising kids in my neighborhood put together this bus trip. So they made this bus. The bus didn't ever land, where it took you paid. It included the hotel, the ride down, tickets to the show, to go down to Blacksburg, Virginia, which was 4/14/78, and then to the next night to this show, William and Mary, 4/15/78. So we got to the William and Mary campus early, and it was roaming around, a lot of cool, beautiful campus. And then I saw the tour bus, and Phil got out and just started walking along. And here he stopped in front of me nicely to take a photo of him. What I love is these old cars you see in the picture, these old 70s cars.
Oh, yeah, that's what really dates the picture there.
Was that like a Pontiac, like a 76 Pontiac? Anyhow,
yeah.
So then these young guys accosted him with this banner to ask him to sign it. And Phil just sat down. There was a chair there, security guard looking on, he's signing it there with vigor. And then he wound up just hanging with us for a while. The next
Is that you back there in the sunglasses, or
no? It was kind of my look. It was kind of my look then, but
right, the hair is what made me think that.
Yeah, I was taking the picture. I was chatting up with these guys, and then Phil took a seat. I think we had two of those, three. Yeah, there he is. And then he just kind of hung for a while. Security guard, not stressed, young woman looking on, and we were all just happy as heck that Phil was like hanging out with us for a few minutes. Before then, the funny about that show, in all of 1978, that was the only show they broke out Morning Dew on. So that was my first Morning Dew, which was a song I've been dying to hear live. And I missed it the times they played it in '77. And then, boy, if I missed it at this show, it wouldn't be till, I don't know, whenever the next time they played it was, but it wouldn't have been in '78.
And then Crazy. We're back there, Bob. Let's see, you sent me a few other pictures here. Let me
yeah, there's no shortage of pictures.
Oh yeah. Here, well, let's jump ahead here a little bit to some Bob Weir, since we're talking about just Bobby.
So, you see Bobby these days. He's usually looks pretty serious when he plays, and stuff like this. So to see him at this playful moment at his home venue, Sweetwater Music Hall, which is essentially walking distance from his house. So this show, what's going on here? So there's a band called the Electric Waste Band out of San Diego. And they play, they have this streak, even through COVID, whether it was streaming or live, they play every, I think Monday night at this club down there called Winston's. So Bill Walton. Right,
they're over 1,500 shows now or something.
Yeah, they put something out, some crazy number of shows, and Bill Walton is friends with them, and he plays with them sometimes. So the Electric Waste Band came up to Sweetwater, and Bill Walton joined them as a guest, and this was before the show started. These are one of the things that one of the things that I live for, to get into these moments. So I was doing some kind of straight on shots with Bill Walton and his wife Lori, and Bobby and his wife Natasha, and then Bobby, without any real prompting or anything, just did this funny thing with his hand towards Bill, and I'm just, on the, Bob on the spot, ready, the camera ready to go.
Oh yeah, that's great. And yeah, it's I've noticed that with Bobby that he used to be kind of his public image was a little sillier. He's making faces or wearing the bunny
Playful.
ears on Saturday Night Live, and he has taken on kind of more of this like a little bit more serious father figure kind of role, lately. So it's nice when you see him busting loose a little like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Natasha posted a picture yesterday of him in a kooky pink wig that just cracked me up. It was
Right. I saw that one. Exactly. It's like, not typical, right? These days. So it's cool to see that.
yeah.
Bobby being playful like this.
Well, yeah, he clearly still has that kind of silly prankster sense of humor, and it's
Totally. Oh, totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
fun to see him let that out. Very cool. Let's see. This was Sound Summit a few years ago.
Yeah, this was cool. I mean, Sound Summit is an event put on by Michael Nash and friends to raise money for the conservancy of Mount Tam. Mount Tam's a state park, and it needs upkeep like any other state park. So this is bringing live music back to the mountain. It's this beautiful amphitheater there that's been there for like, I don't know, like 90 years or whatever. Where you get a view of the city from the top. So this particular show was an amazing lineup. I mean, Herbie Hancock, and then Bob Weir came out and played with him. I think Grace Potter was at this show, and maybe Lucas Nelson. So Bobby came out with Herbie Hancock. I mean, two legends. I mean,
yeah, it was a great day, and I love Sound Summit every year, and it's such a magical spot. And that theater was the location of the first real rock festival, the Magic Mountain Festival, a week before Monterey Pop. But everybody knows about Monterey Pop and not so much about the Magic Mountain Festival.
I mean, to see a show up there with a view of the city, you're like right smack in the middle of Marin County. It's like, it's heaven,
Yeah. I unfortunately missed it this year, but it's always such a great event. One of my favorites, and Deadhead Land loves to support the Sound Summit. It's a great.
And you could see Bobby totally into it, with Herbie. These are the moments, photographers wait for. They look for these moments of the certain interaction. I mean, that's what I look for.
Absolutely. And speaking of certain interaction, this is so sweet.
This was special. This was I think this was maybe the year before, an earlier Sound Summit when Bobby played. So I was backstage, and I was talking to Phil because my book, Music Never Stopped, had just come out. So this was 2017. So I gave Phil a copy of the book. He wrote the forward to that. So I was doing some pictures of him, plugging the book and all. So then Bobby came up with his manager, Matt Bush, who you see his shoulder in the picture. And their greeting was so tender, this big hug. And I just, sometimes you're not ready. You don't have your camera set up right, or you have a different lens on, or you're just not ready. But I thank the universe I was ready, and just saw this sweet moment. And I think the next, I don't know if I gave you the other picture, was when they first, then they were just, like obviously very happy to see each other. And it was just a great moment.
Yeah. It's and people sometimes there's always a discussion when Dead and Company is touring. It's like, why isn't Phil there? Why isn't Phil there? And Phil's just not into doing the Dead and Company, but him and Bob are good friends, and they played together a couple of times this year, and hopefully they'll do more. I mean,
they're brothers deeper than blood, as Bob said. It goes deeper than blood.
Yeah, and that's Matt there in the middle. Matt Bush, Bobby's manager, and he's a great guy. I really like Matt.
Yeah, so Matt was very happy. We were all just so glad to see this scene just unfold. Spontaneously.
Yeah, and here's another Bob candid shot there.
Yeah, I call it the thinking series because I have another shot of Bob. I have actually a number of shots of Bobby doing that, the thinker pose with a number of musicians. So I think I'm going to have them all together in the book, all the various ones with Lucas. And here, this is the infamous Sweetwater alleyway, AKA the smoking section. But in this night, Trixie, Jerry's daughter Trixie came down. I forgot which show this was, but Trixie just lights up the room wherever she is, or in this case, the alleyway. She just flashes that smile, and that's a beautiful thing to see. And of course, her there with Bobby, and you can see Bobby's got a cracking a grin, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
under that
It's
mustache.
such a warm look, and kind of capture just, you know, I know they're posing for the camera for a moment, but you can tell there's like a sweet energy there with the two of them, that they were, you know,
Exactly. So, you
connecting.
know,
And they're, again, you know, I mean, Trixie's known Bob her whole life, and that's a familial connection there. Yeah,
totally like Uncle Bob, you know.
yeah, yeah. And
So yeah, so these are some of the. This is like one of the intimate moments I was talking about earlier. Being allowed to be in these situations, because you know they don't just. It's not just like a free for all when they're rehearsing and stuff. They usually don't want a lot of people around. If you're not
mhm.
part of the crew or something, to allow a a third party, whatever, a person that's not part of that to kind of hang and observe and take pictures isn't something I don't take lightly. That
Mhm.
experience, you get invited to do something like this, and you want to be able to come back and do it again. So, um, in this case, this was at TRI Studios, Bobby's place down in San Rafael, where it's this. He calls it a playground for musicians, and that's exactly what it is. I'm trying to remember this show. I think this was a sort of a Rat Dog reunion show, perhaps.
Mhm.
So Bobby going over his multitude of electronic goodies there, and Steve Kimmock looking on, and me just kneeling down as well and capturing
Yeah.
capturing the moment.
Yeah, what I love about this shot really is that it is their moment. You're invisible. Like sometimes they're looking at you, and I'm aware that, like, okay, you are there as a cameraman. And this one, no, this is totally that, as Susanna would say, the fly on the wall picture.
Right, she did it. Yeah,
You're
she.
you're not even in the picture. They're just having their moment, and it's that, again, that kind of speaks to their comfortableness with having you around. And
That's the
yeah.
idea. Yeah, just to be not influence it, to be quiet. In this case, not using a flash or anything to bring any attention to myself, and just watching it
Mhm.
naturally flow.
Uh-huh, very good. That's great. Another one from
Yeah, similar. Yeah, thing
that
there.
series there. And let's see. Oh, there's a couple of good Bobby shots. Just great photography.
Yeah,
This was posed, I assume, was a setup photo shoot
yeah.
situation.
This was a setup photo shoot. This is actually on Bob's street, at the end of his street, and in Mill Valley. And when I got to his house to do the shoot, we did some shots in his garden and stuff. But then he suggested, he goes, "Let me take you down the street and show you where Natasha and I got married." And uh,
Uh-huh.
and then he brought along Monet, his daughter, who was very little at the time, like a baby essentially. So his hands were kind of full. He put Monet on his shoulders, so he gave me the guitar to hold while we walked down the street. And along the street, there were like wild not blackberries growing and stuff. So she was picking them from his shoulder, and I'm holding this guitar, and I'm thinking to myself, "Is this real? Is this really happening?"
Yeah.
So we got to the end of the street, and the cool thing was he sat down cross-legged with Monet playing nearby, and he was just playing the whole time during the shoot, like playing for me. And then Natasha came down and joined him, and then I did some family shots. Yeah, this
Uh-huh.
was it, where he was just sitting there playing for me while I was shooting, and I was like, it was a time that you just don't want to ever end. So
Oh, I imagine. Yeah, I've had occasion to have, not with Bob Weir. Well, actually, a little bit with Bob Weir, but yeah, where I've had just the privilege of being in the situation where it was, like I said, kind of one of those intimate moments where it's just they're just being themselves.
yeah,
And
there's TRI.
yeah, here's a big shot at TRI. This is a bunch of people on stage, and this was
Yeah,
Jerry's birthday.
Move Me Brightly.
The Move Me Brightly,
Yeah,
right?
you have Neil Casal over there on the far end,
Right. Yeah.
and Donna and Gordon from Fish, and various other people came on and off. I mean, it was what a night! It was like 4 or 5 hours. It was unreal. What a
Right,
night!
and that's available out on DVD and streaming now. If anybody didn't watch it live, or hasn't seen it repeated over the years, but it really is a great special. So many great performances, and including Neil Casal, some amazing stuff from him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Neil was great, and yeah, I just feel blessed to have such be able to have such shots and memories. That.
yeah, and let's come back here. We'll see a few pictures of Jerry before we close out. This is a great shot. Where's this from?
Yeah, that was a great day, man. That was for me too. That was a really special day for a number of reasons. Well, this is June 28th, 1985 at Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. So a few things about this show. It poured. You know, if you look close, you could see raindrops rain on Jerry's guitar. You know, Jerry wearing a red shirt, a blue blazer, not his typical wear. But most unusually, in the first set, they played 3 Jerry songs in a row, including a first set, Comes a Time, which was like, and in the second set, they did Morning Dew. So this is like the only show I could think of where they did Comes a Time and Morning Dew. You know,
Wow.
2 slow, heavy songs.
And those are probably my 2 favorite Jerry songs. So.
Which are usually like the climax of the show, right? The thing you're going to be talking about afterwards. They did both of those songs, one in the first, one in the second set. And for me, you know, up till this point, you know, I was, again, a hippie with a camera, working my way up, waiting all night online, you know, getting there, try to get up close. But at this show, my friends Lisa and Sandy introduced me to Dennis McNally. And he took me backstage, and really it was the beginning of a friendship that lasts to this day. So he let me shoot the show from the pit, and I got my first backstage pass for the Dead. And, you know, so it was a pivotal moment, you know, for me, and a pivotal, you know, it was a great 1985 show of Jerry roaring. I like to think he's saying something like here, you know, I guess it doesn't matter anymore, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to figure out exactly because I wasn't like taking notes, you know.
Yeah. Robbie Cohn's done that with a lot of her shots where she wrote down like what songs, and so
it's
she can
amazing,
say, "Oh,
you know,
this is during this song." Yeah,
Cumberland or something. So I give her a lot of credit for knowing the song. On rare occasions, I know the song, but she actually makes it a point, you know, to do that.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's keeping good logs. I remember, you know, I was a cinema student back when I went to college, and I remember the teachers would always talk about, you know, keeping good logs, good paperwork. It's always going to help you down the road. But in the moment, sometimes it's, you're not grabbing the pen and paper, you're just shooting and doing the thing. So
right. I mean, afterwards, I kept copious notes of my set list, and I post them occasionally. And it's like, I'm so glad I did, because how would you really remember which exact nights you've been to, you know, because it becomes a blur, you know. And
you think you would, but then even just after like 2 or 3 weeks of tour, you're like, oh my God, did they play that on Thursday or Tuesday?
Or which night to Radio City did I go? There were 8 nights. Did I go to which? I know I went the first and the last, but did I go, you know? But thank goodness I got those notes.
Absolutely. Now here's a real sweet and very special picture.
Now talk about a time that you thought you didn't want to ever end. Was we got to have Jerry to ourselves for almost an hour at this place. This was at Laguna Seca in Monterey in 1987. This was the day that they did the Touch of Grey video. They did it that night. So Jerry was in fine form. His hair was all nice and fluffy. Or actually, Ann, that's my wife, Ann, by the way. And, she, you know, we both took pictures of Jerry, you know, with Jerry. But Jerry didn't hold me like that.
No, but that's adorable. I mean, just the smile in her face and look in her eyes. You can just tell.
You could see Jerry's hand. Jerry pulled her in nice and close. And I remember Ann told me afterwards his beard was so soft.
Oh.
And, you know, Jerry was very sweet and very friendly to us, you know, because we just went over. He didn't know us, or, you know, we just went over there and introduced ourselves, because he was just sitting there flipping through a newspaper. And it was wonderful. You know, he was at that time talking to Dead Plane in China, and, you know, the Touch of Grey. I remember telling him, I don't know, I think that song got legs, man. It might be a hit, you know. And he goes, well, I've heard that before. You know, the thing about Jerry was, I mean, I've only got to be in this situation with him 2 or 3 times, but this time was the best of them, is that how funny he was, and how well read he was, how knowledgeable he was on a variety of topics, and how we can talk about just about anything. But the funniness part, because I remember my mouth was hurting from grinning so much, you know, afterwards. So this was cool, you know. It was a great moment to see Ann and Jerry like this.
Yeah. I've always gotten. I mean, I never got to meet Jerry, although I did have a couple of small little private moments, but, you know, never where we really interacted. But in interviews, I've always gotten that impression that it's like, wow, he just would be so fascinating to get into conversation with, because he does know. I mean, not even about music, about everything else. I'd love to talk to him about science fiction and Kurt Vonnegut and comic books, you know?
Yeah, that's one of his main things that he
Yeah.
is like an expert on, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
and he was very gracious to us and friendly. So we didn't feel like we were annoying him or anything.
Oh, that's great. And we're going backward. I thought I had the
All right.
pictures. Oh, here we go. This is
The
the
frost.
frost.
Yeah, that was a week before the shot of Anne and Jerry. We heard how beautiful and wonderful the Frost Amphitheater was, and Anne, Anne and I hadn't been out to the Bay Area in about 5 years at that point. We were still living in New York, so we heard the Dead were playing 2 nights at the Frost, and then the following weekend 2 nights at Monterey. Now at this point, I was hooked up for shooting shows and getting passes. This was like a couple of years after that fateful meeting with Dennis in Hershey Park, and Dennis lived in San Francisco. At this point, we were pretty friends. We were good friends with him. So he hooked us up, and Ann and I came out for like 10 days. We did this show, and then during the week, we hung out, and visited friends, and then went down to Monterey. But this show was our first time at the Frost Amphitheater, and as you can see, the Frost Amphitheater, just from this close-up view, it's a special place
Mm-hmm.
on the campus of Stanford University. And it was a beautiful sunny day. And it was, as somebody who didn't live here, who wanted to move to the Bay Area, who was a New Yorker, this was everything that embodied the reasons why we wanted to move to San Francisco,
Uh-huh.
was to have experiences like this, seeing the Grateful Dead, like not far from where they were born, actually, down on the peninsula, like Menlo Park and all of that in the Warlocks days. And the scene was so cool, so nice. The weather was beautiful. And we did wind up moving out here a few years later.
Well, very good. Super, super great. I unfortunately never did get to see the Dead at the Frost myself. I did see Phil Esch and friends there once, so I can totally see why people love that place. And I know
Yeah.
J-Rad's playing there next week, and I know a lot of people are going to go to that and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're having shows there again, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's this? This is a little while before then.
Yep, this is in 1979. This is on April 12th, 1979, at a place called Red Rocks in Colorado. A place many of us are familiar with, and a place where I'll be in a couple of days to see Dead and Company. I can't believe it. So this was the first time I went to Red Rocks. I heard about the shows the previous year. I read about them in Relics magazine, and I never heard of the place before then. I was like, I saw pictures. I was like, what is this place? This natural amphitheater with these incredible giant rock behind the stage, and you can't see it from here, but 2 enormous rocks flanking it on each side, this like natural amphitheater. So I made plans. I was like 20 years old. It was during the summer. I guess I was in college then. Yeah, it was in summer between, I think, junior and senior year. So my buddy and I, actually the same buddy I went out to Winterland with a couple of years earlier, my partner in crime, we came out. We got tickets for the 3 nights and came out. So what happened was, though, it rained. So the subsequent 2 nights were moved indoors to McNichols Arena, which was kind of a bummer. I mean, the band played great, but we were really looking forward to 3 nights at Red Rocks. But thank goodness we got this night in, and it did rain, but they didn't stop the show or anything. So this is, for me, a relatively rare full band shot. Because it's kind of hard to get a full band shot, because usually Brent, or who's playing keys, is kind of always like far off to the side. So you really got to pull back. But thankfully here they were kind of condensed. So, and Phil's doing this kind of thing where he's walking towards Weir, and they're all looking over. There's obviously a power thing, a transition happening right here. Something's going on, because all the band members on stage are all looking inward towards each other. So of course, if I was Robbie Cohn, she would have known what's exactly happening here.
she has notes somewhere,
right?
But
I could only think it was. I don't have the song list off top of my head. Maybe it was a transition between, Scarlet Fire or something. Somebody right now is going, no, they didn't play it that night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are people that have that committed to memory. I'm always glad it's written down. I know how to look things up. And
yeah, now I can find out. But just off the top of my head, because my head's kind of overloaded with stuff, I can't remember those things like.
And this is of course this is before Phil and Jerry switched sides, and
right, notable for that amongst the Dead, experts out there, and right before that, this is April '79. The next time I saw them was when they came back to the New York area that fall, like at Nassau Coliseum and other places.
Yeah, and I noticed that on my shots, a lot of times the keyboard player gets cut off because they're off to the side somewhere. They're
Too far off. And yeah,
yeah,
so this is a good moment for capture that.
yeah, very good. And drummers too. Sometimes it's hard to get pictures of drummers. They always have so much equipment in front of them.
Yeah, there's always something in the way, you know.
But I do appreciate pictures before iPads, though. iPads are like the bane of stage photography.
Tell me about it. Plus, they cast this unearthly bluish glow on the person. It's terrible. So, what's happening here? Let's see.
This is Keith on guitar.
Yeah. Bill Kreutzmann hanging out with a Michelob, and Keith Gottschalk strumming a Stratocaster with like slippers on, in a very industrial looking green room. So what is going on here? So this was actually a few months before that Red Rock shot. This was in May of 1979 in New York City, actually in Long Island at I think it was the Pastime, which was it? I think it was the Pastime Pub in New York. So what's happening is there was a band then called the Healy Treese Band. And yes, Dan Healy is the Healy, and this other fellow named Treese had a band together, and in the band was Bill Kreutzmann and Keith Gottschalk. But surprisingly enough, and a couple other folks, it was a very short-lived band. They only did one brief tour in the New York area, but it was enough for me to say, like, I'm heading out to this place to see this lineup. And Keith at this show surprisingly played bass. He was the bass player at this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like crazy. You could look up Healy Treese and read a little more about them from May of '79. So since it was like in a same kind of club I used to see dead cover bands in, like Volunteers, or Earl DSO, Jeff Mattson, Rob Baracco, and all of that. Mm-hmm. I was able to talk my way backstage because I was shooting a lot for Relics then. So I just kind of walked in, and you don't see the rest of the room, but you see some of the roadies were in there, and some tough looking people and stuff. So I just walked in and said, hey, I take some pictures. I'm shooting for Relics and all that. And they were okay with it, as you could see. So I got some off the wall shots. And Keith is me, or probably most people had never seen them before.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, and that's actually that's a band lineup I hadn't heard of, so that's something new
the Healy
to me.
Band, yeah, the mystery band.
Very interesting.
With Keith playing bass.
Here's some early shakedown shots.
Now check it out. What's cool about this picture is those people are selling like shakedown shirts on Shakedown Street.
Right. Oh, absolutely. That's great.
How meta is that?
And what's that say? 1987 is what that says.
Yeah. So that was at the Frost, actually. That was a first time at the Frost. And, I was also out there. I brought some of my photos. I laid them out there too. I was doing that Shakedown Street thing as well. But also it was such a vibrant Shakedown Street. So it wasn't even called Shakedown Street then. It was just, didn't really have a name.
No, I remember in my early days, we'd always just call it the scene. Like, let's go hit the scene.
Just go hang out, right. So we were making the scene there, and I was photographing it. I got a lot of photos from this. A lot of times I don't do a lot of, sometimes I'm just focused on the show itself, or I like to shoot the marquee. And then shows like this, I just shot the heck out of the outside scene, people dancing, people having fun. Because I was just so pumped up just from being out there, because I hadn't been out to the Bay Area in 5 years at that point. Last time I was there was 82. So, it was like, wow, I got to move out, man, we got to move out here. So I have a few from this day. I think I sent you. Yep. Waiting for the show to begin, right? How many hours have we collectively spent waiting for the show to begin in our life? Like how many hundreds or thousands of hours have we spent waiting? This fellow, he was using his time well.
Yeah, getting all rested up so he could then dance his ass off later.
Catch a nice tan while you're at it too.
Yeah, I remember there'd be people that would just like have their line activities all taken care of. They'd have like cards and books and things. It's just part of the thing. We're going to come sit here for 5, 6, 8 hours, and then we're going to go in and sit there, But it was just part of where we would hang out, what we would do, and
it's part of the experience,
Yeah. I loved getting to a show like really early just so you had time to hang out and play frisbee and hacky sack and
Hacky sack,
whatever.
yeah. I have a number of hacky sack photos.
There we go.
Here's one, right? It's funny,
Yeah.
over the years, some of these guys in the photo have contacted me because they've seen this photo. And they're like, oh, look, I have hair. Or, look how thin I was. Things like that, like they see themselves like 30, 40, 30 years younger,
Yeah, just at Days Between a month and a half or 2 months ago, I was walking through the crowd and I saw some people hacky sacking, and I went to go take a picture of them. And as I'm snapping pictures, I'm like, oh, these are like all like old friends of mine that I haven't seen for like 15 years, but that I used to play hacky sack with at shows. It was like I didn't even realize it was them while I was shooting the pictures. Like, oh, these are all my friends. It
Oh,
was
that's funny.
such a great community and connective thing. And one of the things I liked about things like hacky sack and frisbee and stuff is like it's just for fun. It's not competitive. We're all just trying to have more fun, And,
Fun. That's my goal, is try to have as much fun as possible.
exactly. Yeah. All right. And here's a bigger shot of that show there.
Yeah. Give you a better sense of the frost on that day of May 2nd and May 3rd of 1987.
Yeah. And it's still not all that different.
This shot has become like an iconic taper shot over the years that I took. It's been used a lot for various things to illustrate taping. It was at where was it at? It was at Merriweather, actually, Merriweather Post Pavilion. It was a couple days after the Hershey show. It was June 30th, 1985. Somebody told me they could see the humidity in the photo.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have to say one of the things that I think is missing, perhaps from our current scene, that maybe some of the younger, newer heads could take up is the energy of tapers. If it's not just taping, it's or people keeping set lists, and I'd say I'm as much of a problem with that because I started so actively publishing set lists on social media a few years back, and now everybody does, and every band posts out their set lists and everything. Right. But people, I like the involvement, where somebody would sit there and they'd scribble down the set list during the show, or people would, look how many people are taping. Now you go and it's like, wow, sometimes you see 4 or 5 mic stands and that's a lot of tapers. I was at Fish last night. I only saw one guy taping in the audience,
Really?
Wow. I'm sure there were more, but it's a little disappointing to me. And I part of what I loved when I first got into the scene was so many people had their role. Hey, this is what I do. I'm a taper. I'm a vendor. I do this. I do that. Right. That it's like we're part of it. We're not just going to a concert. We're part of the circus.
It's not just going to see Elton John, or whatever. As much as I'd love to see Elton John. I mean, it's not like you're part of it. Like these people, this is a whole culture unto itself. The taping culture. For me as a photographer, I have my spot. Even if it's a GA show, which many of them were, everybody had their spot. You knew where to find people because GA or not, you found your tribe, your posse. And, in my case, I knew the angle I wanted to get. I wanted to be on Phil's side in the later years to get that sweep across the stage because Jerry'd be looking over at Bobby and Phil. So, we all had our reasons. We all had our roles, our places, the hallway dancers, the back of the hall dancers.
Yeah. I had a group of friends. We would always like figure out, like, some of us would be vending in the lot and some of us would be holding the spot online, so we could then go in and get our group of whatever it was, 8 or 10 or 12 seats together so we could all sit together. And then after maybe 50 or 60 shows that way, I started to get bored of that routine and I started to wander, and I discovered, like, it was a new thing. I discovered for myself the hallway dances. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And like
the spinners, you could just watch them.
Yeah. And I got over like watching the stage all the time. And I'm like, I'm having this fun experience interacting with people. And Bill Graham was great, like at Oakland, where he'd have the speakers out in the hallway. So we could just dance out there and hear the sound sometimes better than from inside. And I'd miss some moments because people would say, oh, did you see when this happened? Did you see? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not actually watching the stage anymore. But it was fun to have different experiences.
Doing their thing,
And my friends were all worried that I was going to become a spinner. And I'm like, no, I just dance with them. I'm not joining the...
Sign me up.
Yeah. Well, very good, Bob. These were great pictures, and I know like we could do this for hours. We've been here for about an hour 20 now. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I actually have to be somewhere a little bit, so we'll have to wrap this up. But it's so great to see so many people tuning in. Oh, there's a good friend of mine, Helena from Jerry's Middle Finger there, and good
Oh
to see
yeah,
you.
Helena.
And Amy Lee D and Arthur Levitt, and hey, great to see all these good friends of
Hawk,
ours there
my pal
watching. And
Hawk. Yeah, he's in there.
yeah,
Thanks,
well,
Priya.
it's
Yeah.
it's great. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you get a chance, check out the link down below, bit.ly/justbobby, and look at Bob Minkin's book. And hopefully you want to pick up a copy and help support the Kickstarter campaign here, and get your name in the book for doing that.
That's right.
Yeah,
You will be inscribed,
yeah.
and I do want to thank Brian and certainly support all the great work. He's really, stepped up and became an MVP during the COVID era,
Oh,
giving a
thank you.
platform to musicians and people such as myself. And he has a Patreon. He doesn't ask for much, and I'm a supporter of it, a monthly supporter. And I
Thank
hope
you,
some
Bob.
of you folks will step up and throw a little love his way as well.
Thank you so much. And I'll throw up, as you mentioned, I'll put my link there. But I'm easy to find on most social media. I'm Deadheadland.
Happy
Uh,
Ted.
yeah, yeah. So that's, you'll find me there. And there's the Patreon. If you could support me, that would be great. I would really appreciate that. And Bob, yeah, let's do this again. I really just enjoy hearing all your stories, and I know you've got like lots more pictures. So happy to have you back on again. And
Yeah, we'll come and do a revisit later on down the
yeah, maybe
road.
when the book is out, maybe we can do that. Yeah.
There you go.
So what's the date? What's the date you're shooting for?
The date, currently, it looks like it'll be the end of April. Oh, no, I mean end of May, probably.
Okay.
It'll be out. Um,
And
that'll
and is
allow.
there a cutoff on the Kickstarter for people to get
Yeah, the
in on it?
cutoff is November 17th, but like I said, many of the rewards I set up in there are limited.
Mhm.
So, like in the case of the limited edition version of the book, which is really beautiful, especially if you haven't seen the Just Cherry one, it's going to be like similar to like that. That one's already. It's only 100 of them are being made, and so far I think about
Nope.
40 of them are taken already. So
Mhm.
because I remember when Just Jerry had happened with that, people like woke up, they're like, "Oh, do you got any more of those left?" I'm like,
So if you want some of the real special premiums, you should get in on it now. Go check out what's available, and if you see something you want, and I think is that you ringing or me?
"Yeah, I'm trying
Okay.
to
All
stop this
right.
thing."
All right. Well, Bob, thanks so much. I'll let you go and take that call, and just grateful to have you here. Thanks
Yep.
for your time this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, I cut him off. Sorry. Thank you all once again for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing more of you soon. We're going to be doing more of these I Know You Writer series. I know lots of other really great books out there for Grateful Dead. I've got my little club I've been trying to get off the ground, the Grateful Read Club. There's a Facebook page and a website. And one of the goals I have with this book club is to encourage you to read the books of the dead, and also to create something of a forum so you can interact more directly with the authors of these books. So this is a nice start to it. Did our previous episode with Susanna Millman, and looking to do a lot more. I know there's a lot of great authors out there I happen to know that wrote books about the Grateful Dead. Thanks again for supporting Deadheadland and for tuning in. Just a reminder, tomorrow at 3 p.m. we've got David Gans. At 4:20 we've got Scott Law. And I believe at 6 p.m. we've got Scott Guberman. So full day of music on Deadheadland tomorrow. Whatever you're doing the rest of your day today, enjoy. If you're in the Bay Area, try to stay dry. Thankfully, we're finally getting some rain this week. And have a grateful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you all being here.
It's Heather, Bob. How are you?
Oh,
Alrighty.
I'm sorry.
We're all